William H. Watson versus Jack the Ripper. My arrival at the academy did nothing to ease my prevailing thoughts of Watson. It did nothing to clear my head of guilt. I yearned to offer an apology for my actions the previous day, but that useless need was not the only thing that brought him to mind. I wished to inquire about my childhood memories also. Ooh, would he answer if questioned directly? Watson, may I speak with you for a bit? I'm truly sorry for everything that happened yesterday.
Don't worry about it. It's all in the past now. I'm sorry too, Emily. Anyway, I've got something I need to tend to.
Watson, what? He's gone. Our break hour played out much the same, with Watson bursting out of the classroom to see whatever had his attention. What could be the matter with him? It doesn't seem his arm is healed, and yet he's running around heedless of his injury. Not only that, it feels as though he's avoiding me. Was I reflecting on the situation too much? It was not uncommon for me to do so, and, as anyone did, I did this twice as much when guilt was involved. It could have been nothing. This business of his may well have been very real and very urgent, but the timing is sus. It could have been a tall tale to avoid me as well. Watson, I have something I need to ask you.
Sorry, Emily. I'm in a bit of a hurry.
Oh. Before we could converse properly, he had already dashed off. Never once did he look me in the eye. Watson. This must be because of what happened yesterday. That dark unease coursed through me vividly again. Why am I still so unnerved? It's not as though I'm at the scene of a crime. Watson has aided me so many times, so often been a help. He has always treated me with kindness and consideration. All this time I have taken it for granted, never noticing the warmth he had shown me. It was only when he was active in avoiding me that I learned something. I had taken his presence for granted. Aww. So this was why I possessed such guilt. All said, I was a small and petty girl. Huh. I sighed in a vainful hope that the churning in my stomach will leave with it. It did nothing. Quite strongly did this ugly feeling wanted nothing more than to dispel linger. Several more days passed with no opportunity to speak with Watson. I wonder whether Watson is trying to investigate the case surrounding Holmes on his own. Holmes had not returned to school. The unusual length of his absence had, of course, not gone unnoticed. The official statement given was that he had been called upon to assist his father with the case. See, now that's clever. Is this how things are to be from now on? Will I be unable to speak with Watson, or to ever see Holmes again? I felt my outlook grow drearier still as I considered that prospect.
Emily, you have all the look about you of bread that has failed to rise. Are you all right?
Marple saw me in the corridor and called out to me. Yes, I'm fine.
Now, you look far too forlorn for me to seriously believe that.
Did I truly look so depressed?
Watson's the reason you're feeling down, isn't it?
What?
Every time he hurries out of the classroom, you always look as though you have something on the tip of your tongue to tell him. I haven't the faintest what's going on between the two of you, but I can say I'm not the least bit pleased with him, leaving you in such a fit of melancholy.
The blame doesn't lie with Watson, though. Lupin, get out of here. We're having girl talk. Marple, why are you inviting Lupin in on the girl talk? So rude.
Come on, you're with me on this, right, Lupin?
What? Me? Lupin, who had by sole coincidence come with us and expected to keep silent, was so unprepared to be part of any topic that his spectacles nearly slipped off his nose when he whipped his head around. Whoa.
You don't think it acceptable for a man to be so absorbed in the details of a case that he ignores a lady, do you?
Yes. That is precisely my stance as well, Miss Marple. Absolutely.
Still, there are a number of disturbing, some might even say alarming, cases lately. Take the Jack the Ripper murders, for instance. To merely hear the name Jack the Ripper sent a chill through me. And it was so different to the chill others experienced. Indeed, they could exaggerate a shiver and be on to their next topic. But as for myself, I recalled him. His presence, his lack of face beneath his brim, his claws dripping with blood. The subject was now too close to me.
Emily? Are you really certain you're all right? I'll go with you to the nurse's office if you like.
Was it something I said?
No, I really am fine. You needn't worry about me, you two.
I took a deep breath in hopes to distance myself from that night.
It was in this morning's paper, wasn't it? Another murder in the East End.
The victim, like others, had her throat cut open and her organs removed from her abdominal cavity. Yeah, actually, I was talking to my hubby about how Watson's rival, for lack of a better word, is Jack the Ripper. And I thought that was strange at first, but then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, well, Watson is like chivalrous protector of all womankind, and Jack the Ripper murders women. And PC Outcast actually also pointed out to me that they think that Jack the Ripper may have been a surgeon. So there's also the doctor connection as well, with Watson having learned to be a doctor from his dad, and now, presumably, Jack the Ripper Jr. having the same surgical skills. So yeah, there's also that connection, which is kind of interesting. I had forgotten about that.
Was the man I saw that evening truly the same as the Jack the Ripper from the papers? He appeared to be targeting solely that man and any who saw him in the act.
If I were to inform anyone that I had been attacked by Jack the Ripper, word might somehow reach him and see him stalk me. It was for that reason that I had told only Pendleton and the Scotland Yard officers who came upon the scene what had transpired.
If he really was the infamous Jack the Ripper, why was he targeting a man when women had been the sole victim of the Ripper crimes? Was it just an anomaly? Or is there some piece I'm missing?
The incisions and the manner in which her organs were removed are clear evidence that the killer, whoever he may be, is exceptionally familiar with human anatomy.
Akachi. As though sensing a discussion about the murders, Akachi and Kobayashi had come upon our impromptu gathering.
To me, that implies that the killer may well be employed in a profession that necessitates great familiarity with the human body.
Like a doctor, perhaps. Oh no, don't you guys dare suspect Watson.
A very reasonable possibility, yes.
Still, there was a rumor circulating some time back that the killer was a young man. Then perhaps a young man who was also a doctor? Would that even be possible?
Of course not. No young man could have completed all the education and training required to obtain a medical license.
Do you really think so? Even if they lacked a license, a teenager with the right resources could still feasibly attain a high degree of medical knowledge, perhaps as an assistant to a doctor. Take Watson, for example.
Watson? Had I heard correctly?
Oh! I had completely forgotten that Watson is the son of a doctor.
Hold on a minute! You can't seriously be casting doubt on Watson, can you? There's no way he could be the killer.
Miss Whiteley, I think you should calm down.
Watson is a kind and caring person. If he sees someone in pain or in need, he will do his utmost to aid them without fail, even if in doing so he puts himself in harm's way. It was just like he had helped me, like he had protected me again and again. It simply isn't possible for him to be a murderer.
None of us are implying that he is, Emily. Since we all know him, I was simply using him as an example of a young man with a high degree of medical training.
True. There's no way Watson, of all people, could really be Jack the Ripper.
No sooner had my anxiety sought rest from one issue done, had it been enkindled by another. Man, male students. Why do I always forget your voices? It'll come to me.
Listen, have you heard the rumor about Holmes from the detective class?
You mean that he's the suspect in a murder case, right?
Their voices were coming from the courtyard.
I'd heard the reason he hadn't been attending classes recently was just that he was helping his father with a case, though.
Well, you never know. I mean, his old man is a famous detective. Scotland Yard would certainly be more inclined to let things slide for him than for you or I. That whole class is full of eccentrics as it is. All they have to do is say they're working on a case, and the instructors will let them out of class early. Wish we had it that good.
Well, they're certainly not sugarcoating their opinions, are they?
I can't exactly deny that our class does have quite the number of eccentric people in it.
Even so, I can't say that I think it proper to speak ill of an entire class behind their backs.
Do you, think I'm counted among the eccentrics they're discussing?
Oh, yes.
Do you even need to ask?
Get him, Marple. The students, meanwhile, continued to discuss the detective's course.
You know that Emily Whiteley, that famous detective who ended up in the newspapers and was appointed by Her Majesty herself, is in that class, right?
Yeah, she's upper crust, though. Do you really think she cares about helping people? It's probably just a hobby to her, something to pass the time.
Then do you think she just used her family's connections to cozy up with the Queen to get her badge? That would be quite shameless.
I'm not sure how I'd feel if I were to receive assistance from someone like her. That is, if she'd even deign to help us. Utter fools, the lot of them.
Easy, Akachi, easy!
Oh, interesting. Akachi got his feathers all ruffled, like, let me at him. And then this time Kobayashi had to hold him back. That's a switch.
Let's return to the classroom, Emily. There's little point in standing here waiting for more nonsense to float past.
Yes, I think that's a fine idea. All right. It was not so easy for me to push what the boys said from my mind. I'm supposed to be one of Her Majesty's detectives, and yet I find myself always relying on others, always shielded by them. Were the question put to me, could I honestly stand up and say without doubt or hesitation that my truest and best prerogative is to be a detective who helps others? I inspected the ring on my finger. As I watched it shimmer to the light, a shout erupted from the courtyard. Oh.
Ah!
What do you want?
Voices I'd overheard earlier and new ones melded into a single rhythm of panic.
Hey.
Oh, dang. And soon this was followed by a curt confrontation from someone I knew. Watson? When I observed the courtyard for the source, there was Watson, boiling with anger as he clenched one of two men present by the collar, both of whom were equally as angered.
It's just Holmes's stooge. What do you want with us?
Let go of me! You're just his assistant. You can't do anything without him.
Go ahead. Say whatever you like about me. But I don't plan to stand here and listen to you insult someone dear to me. So if you don't plan on stopping, then I'll have to make you!
Ah!
Oh, alright, I'm sorry. Just let go of me.
The two boys fled the courtyard. Watson. My first impulse was to take their place and tend to Watson. Yet before I could take the first step, he too had left.
Goodness, I've never seen Watson that angry before.
I seriously thought he was going to belt that chap right in the face.
He's not that sort of person, though.
You're absolutely right, Miss Whiteley. He's not the sort of man who could possibly commit a crime.
Thank you, Akachi. I knew I was being avoided. Still, I made my attempt to speak to him with the expectation I would fail, only for my expectation to be absolutely correct. He had left the academy before I could make the attempt. I couldn't be held at arm's length forever, surely. Could I? No, surely not. I'll speak with him, no matter what. About the case, about my memories of that incident. Whatever it takes, I have to talk with him. My desire was fueled into a resolution, enough for me to think it a small weight lifted off my chest. The return home was short. It was in the door, make preparations to leave, and setting out at once for the Baker Street office.
My lady, what are you doing over there?
Pendleton?
Are you planning on going out?
The situation as it was, I felt it best to be honest in telling Pendleton where I was going rather than lie. I was planning on making my way to Holmes and Watson's office.
You're worried about Watson, I take it.
Yes, I have been for several days now.
My lady, have you forgotten the promise you made to him? I need you to promise me something. That you won't venture out alone anymore. To keep yourself out of danger.
Oh.
I'm glad to see it hasn't slipped your memory. In that case, I hope I can expect you to remain inside this evening.
I suppose you're right.
Well, were the circumstances ordinary, that's what I'd say to you. However, these circumstances are by no means ordinary. Until a scant few moments ago, I had every intention of escorting you to and from your destination.
Really?
Still, I find myself having second thoughts. This feeling is perhaps not unlike that of a father whose reigning place in his daughter's heart has been supplanted by an eager suitor.
Pendleton. Daughter? Come now, Pendleton, you're not my father.
I didn't mean it literally, my lady.
Watson is an important friend to me.
As I said, my lady, my statement was figurative, not to be taken literally. Still, with a denial garnished by that degree of embarrassment, now I'm having second thoughts about even that.
She said nothing, and so I set off for my destination. Yes. He was unhappy with the whole affair, as he had expressed plainly on multiple occasions and would likely express more in the future, but Pendleton still escorted me by carriage. And he was very firm in his insistence that he would personally come to pick me up when it was time to return home. I mean, kudos, man. The door upon arrival was locked. No one appeared to be inside. Perhaps he simply hasn't come home yet. If I wait here, I may still be able to speak with him. Up until now, I've been able to see and speak with him whenever I wish to. Why is it that now I can't? Just where has he been? What is he doing? Watson. Oh! What is it, Emily? Oh, hello. As if in response, Hudson called out from behind. What are you doing just standing there? You'll catch your death of cold if you just loiter around out here. Hello, Hudson. Well, Watson forgot something at school, so I've come to bring it to him personally. But there doesn't appear to be anyone back home yet. Really? Honestly, that man really is useless. Still, ever since Holmes stopped coming home, Watson just hasn't been the same. It feels like there's something missing here now. Like it's just too quiet without their back and forth. I do hope Holmes can come home soon. Yes, so do I. You seem a little down yourself, though. Her lips puffed out in concern. What's wrong? I'm your assistant, you know. Whatever's on your mind, you can tell me. Thank you, Hudson. But I'm fine. Really, I am. You and me both know that just isn't true. You looked so forlorn as you called out Watson's name under your breath just a minute ago. Wait. Hudson, you saw that? Of course I did. Keen observation is very important for a detective, as you know. Next to puff was her chest, this time in pride. Have the two of you had a fight? And then you came here because you wanted to make up with him? Make up with him? I suppose you're right. I'm sure it'll be a simple matter then. After all, he's always had a soft spot for you. I'm sure smoothing things over with him will be a simple enough matter. Hudson, I think Watson is just kind to everyone. Well, that's true, but he's especially kind toward you. The impression I get is that the way he acts around you is like you remind him of his first love or some such. This is Watson we're talking about here, so I would imagine it's something uncomplicated like that. His first love? I found myself recalling the story he had told me once before, and how gentle his expression had become when he spoke of that girl from his memories. I'm sure he must still care deeply for her even now. Yes. It's true. I think I shall give him a good interrogation about all of this the next time I see him. Be gentle with him, Hudson. Perhaps she's right. What if the source of his kindness is simply some resemblance to the first girl he loved? Because it's you! Ugh. I felt an emptiness in the pit of my stomach as the thought passed through my mind. Say, would you care to join me for some tea? If you have the time, of course. I'd be happy to treat you. Thank you, Hudson. I'd love to. Pushing back against the feelings that welled up within me, I consented with a smile and a nod.
Outside the Academy's dormitory.
I'm ready when you are.
All right.
Okay, I guess this is Watson's point of view again.
Akachi and I stood directly facing one another. He had his katana drawn and at the ready. I had taken an offensive stance, fists clenched tightly.
Are you learning to fight blades?
We were focused and alert, keenly gauging our distance and the options we might utilize to close it. Plays and counterplays. Then it had begun. I made the first move, signaling the beginning of our bout.
This music! Alright. Whew. Akachi without his jacket on, though. Sorry, distracted.
Since the day after my fateful encounter with Jack the Ripper, Akachi had been kind enough to join me in my training. It had seemed clear to me that, as things stood, I wouldn't be able to best the Ripper in a fight. And if I couldn't do that, Emily would surely be in grave danger. When I pondered how I might become strong enough to win against so notorious an adversary, the first man who came to mind was none other than Akachi. Initially, he refused to aid me, saying that he didn't believe in taking on students. But after my incessant pleas bordering on desperation, he eventually came around, and concluding that assisting me would be, for him, a form of training in and of itself. Our first bout was nothing short of a disaster. I couldn't read his movements, keep up with him, or work out how I might counter his attacks. But I wouldn't be so easily deterred. I continued to persevere, and thanks to his instruction, it began to become easier to keep up with him. And so the practical instruction continued. Ha! While I had only been able to spar with him a limited number of times, I had occasionally been able to read his movements, enough to land a blow against him here and there.
You're quite the keen learner, Watson.
You really think so?
I do. You seem to learn quickly simply by watching others and imitating their actions.
You may be onto something. I learned what I know of surgical procedure through watching my father, and picked up the piano watching my mum. Though, having said that, I still recall thinking, there's no way I can imitate that, when my father had tried to teach me how to shoot a gun.
You also possess both stamina and physical strength in abundance, though relying completely on strength to simply batter your way through a conflict will only serve to quickly fatigue you. The key to overcoming one's opponent in battle is to read his movement and the trajectory of his weapon, formulate potential counters, and wait until the last moment.
You need to think how best to use their own strength and momentum to your advantage to emerge victorious, right?
Precisely. The ability to calmly observe one's opponent is a useful skill for more than just detective work.
Akachi nodded, returning his sword to its sheath. Thanks, Akachi. I really do appreciate you going out of your way to help me like this.
Think nothing of it. Serving as your opponent has been educational for me as well. Instructing others is a sure way of teaching oneself. I only wish you showed this measure of devotion in your classwork.
Sorry.
I don't think I'm the one you ought to be apologizing to.
Huh?
This may be none of my business, Watson, and if you feel my observation intrusive, I understand.
There was no blame in Akachi's voice as he related his observations in an entirely matter-of-fact manner.
Martial arts and investigation are hardly the only things that benefit from the ability to calmly observe others.
What are you implying exactly?
If you undertook this training in the hopes of safeguarding something or someone, if you are bound and determined to succeed on your own strength without relying on Holmes, then my advice to you would be to stop avoiding her.
Akachi had never before pressed me for the reason behind my sudden interest in training. Yet it was clear now that he fully understood exactly why I wished to empower myself, and for whose sake. I thought that, as I was, being by her side could only endanger her. That I was too weak to defend her, too frail to help her, even if that's what I wanted more than anything. Even when she was shaking with fear, I couldn't console or reassure her. After our encounter with Jack the Ripper ended with his sudden departure, I could see her frame shake and shiver as she wrapped my injured hand. She looked as though at any moment she might burst into tears. I neither wanted to see her in that state ever again, or to be the cause of it.
Then she is truly that important to you?
Yes, she is. She has been, ever since we were children.
Man, Akachi's so smart. I guess he had to take the place of Holmes because Holmes is busy with his own problems. Even as the sun dipped low in the sky and the streets around us darkened, Watson had yet to return home. Pendleton will no doubt be here to collect me soon. Thank you very much for the tea, Hudson. You're most welcome. Thank you for joining me, Emily. The streets can be dangerous at night, so do take care on your way back. I'll be fine. Take care, Hudson. I stepped out of the apartment, watching as Hudson waved to me from the doorway. Do we have to wait outside, though? By the time I finally stepped out onto the street, twilight had settled over the city. I wonder if I came a little too early. I hope I don't leave and miss him by only a quarter hour. A cold wind whipped through the cobblestone street, threatening to drain away the warmth I had imbibed from Hudson's tea. Such a chill out tonight. I wonder if Watson is caught out in this cold as well. Next time, I swear I'm going to talk with him. Whatever it takes. Staying mindful of passing carriages, I began walking along Baker Street, the ubiquitous London fog now descending on the city. Man, girl, you see that fog, you run back inside to Miss Hudson. When I last passed this way on foot, Watson was here beside me. I thought back to the time he had escorted me back to the mansion and felt a longing to enjoy his company again. What if he has pushed himself too hard and is now experiencing the effects of that? Oh dear. I hope he's not come to any harm. If this continues as it has been, and I never get the chance to have a proper conversation with him again, I know I'll regret it. Though I had walked up and down Baker Street countless times, I found my pace slower than usual, wading through a quagmire of doubts. At last I passed by a dimly lit alleyway when suddenly a voice from the fog-shrouded darkness startled me.
Found you.
I had neither the time nor presence of mind to scream. Without warning, I was ensnared and drawn into the back alley because I was a big old dum-dum. Who is it?
Sorry. If I don't kill you, it's me who's gonna get it.
I know this voice. The wind blowing in from the main street thinned the fog just enough to allow me a view of my captor. Now you recognize his voice? Oh, I guess she recognizes it as Jack the Ripper. Drat. The moment I saw the silvery glint of the claws upon his hand, my blood ran cold. The sight of the same razor claws that had pierced Watson's arm and the faint smell of blood in the air transfixed me to the spot. You're Jack the Ripper! I need to get away! I struggled desperately to break free of his grip, but he simply dug his claws that much deeper into my arm. No!
First you, then that fool.
My mind had gone completely blank with fear. My body was shaking and my ability to speak had left me. I can't break free, but I have to get away somehow. I must!
You won't feel no pain. I shall make your death a graceful one.
What should I do? Is my life to end here? Before I even have a chance to make amends with him?
Goodbye.
Jack the Ripper raised up his hand, swinging in with great force. Stray rays of moonlight glinted off his claws, throwing their momentary gleam over my face.